Purpose. Stop befriending the purpose. Let's see. Hmm. Too many things on my desk. So much clutter. So many chords. Oh, that's not bad. This thing lower. Yeah, that's fine. Hmm. Well, this isn't ideal. Maybe, maybe that's fine. Uh, Here's the question. Can you all hear me? Well, not if I mute, but I'm not mute. What if? Hmm. Since nobody's here and I'm basically live streaming by myself, um, I'm wondering what I should do. Part of me wants to just start making apps and shit. Do a little preview. But these things are all audio, so you guys couldn't see me work even if I shared my screen. So do I have on the list? I know we got product coming out, but the objective is to solve an actual problem, right? I'm not trying to just make shit for the sake of making shit. Um, but you know what? I think we're going to go over fond because that's the big thing that I want to make. Um, this is my love note to my best friend and little brother. But also it's going to be based on my management consulting um, process that is in the works. But I also am doing some mentorship, which I'm thinking there's going to be overlap because, I mean, I'm teaching these college kids how to prepare for the job world. And my entire concept here is to um, teach them to be entrepreneurs because you are, regardless of whether or not you like want to start a business, you're um, you're gonna have to because that's the whole concept of this economy is making the shift from thinking of yourself as an employee who just develops skills to making yourself a business. You are the business. You have customers, and your customers are the company, and you have vendors, which are whoever is supplying you with the tools and skills that you need. So, in so many ways, your school is a vendor. Um, and Jim is trying to join, and I got to figure out how to send him a link. This guy's so. Where is he? Maybe? He just woke up. And I'm gonna send him the link over Substack so he can. If you're looking for me, you can find me on the block disobeying the law. Cause I'm a rider. Yeah. Oh yes, a soul survivor. Been in the minute doom doom bop boop a doop a doop bop boop a doop a doop bop now. Oh darn it. I sent him the wrong one. Just kidding. Uh, okay. So, what are we going to do here? We are looking at putting together a program, not a course. I'm over the whole course thing. There's a concept of the strategy. I'm gonna basically repeat all of this as soon as somebody pops on. But I was watching this YouTube video, and because I'm a nerd, I don't watch YouTube videos. I read them now. I have an AI that'll just give me the rundown, so I can read 30-minute, hour-long podcast or YouTube video with the high level. And if I don't get what I need out of the high level, then I can go in there. But for the most part, I'll just do an argument map based off of the transcript, figure out what are the main points that they're trying to communicate, and I can get them there. So that's um, that's basically how I do YouTube now. But otherwise, I have this. I saw this video, and they were talking about strategists versus tacticians. I think the word he used was performer, right? So it's like the performer and the thinker. Um, this is one of my frameworks, or it reminds me of one of my frameworks, CPR, consume, produce, reflect, because those are essentially the three activities. Most people will focus on consumption, or at least now it's easier to focus on consumption. Um, but academics, they tend to get into consume reflect loops where they just weet, 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 weet. And they don't know something, and then so they go and learn something, and then they don't know something else, and then they go don't learn something. It's a hydra. Oh, hello, James. You're on mute. Your video is up. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Hearts are together. We made it
Welcome.
all in one fell swoop. Good day.
Yeah. So, um, while it was just me being me chicken, I was talking about the oh God, this video that I saw on YouTube, and it's become my habit. I don't watch YouTube videos anymore. They're just, too long.
Hmm.
So I have a thing that I go to Perplexity. I'll take the transcript, and then the transcript will um, give me a summary, and then I'll just read it. So in like 2 to 5 minutes, I can read what I would have watched for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, you know? So, if there's something that I'm like, oh, this is really good, I would like to actually listen to the whole thing, then I can. But for the most part, I just am am reading YouTube videos now and taking notes. There's a funny thing. Aaron and I were watching a podcast, and this guy's like, yeah, everybody is just, in podcast or YouTube world, and nobody just sits down to YouTube videos with a notepad. And I was like, I do. I'm that nerd.
Right.
So this was an interesting one because he was talking about a concept of um, the strategist versus the performer. I call him the strategist and the tactician. And he was basically saying that the problem with like the self-help industry or personal development stuff in the first place is that everybody wants to give you like coaching or, courses or things like that. And so it's most or books, right? Like bestsellers. They're all these information. And so you gather all this information, but then you don't end up doing anything with the information that you've consumed. So the challenge is, okay, well, how do you act? Well, the strategist, you've got two essential modes or brain or people inside of your head. And you got the strategist, and the strategist is in that consume reflect loop. Let me go and learn more information, reflect, but it's like a hydra. So as soon as you get an answer to a question, you've just lopped off one of the heads of the hydra, and then two more questions pop up in its place, right? So this is
Right.
why you never like know everything, because every
Hmm.
time everything you know gives every answer gives you more questions,
Right.
right?
It's an unending series of questions. Exactly.
Yeah. And so what happens is if you're in this place of uncertainty, you're like, okay, well, let me go and learn about it. And so you learn about it. But what never happens is that your tactician doesn't do anything about it. So the strategist's goal is to acquire knowledge, but the tactician's goal is to develop skill. And if you if you acquire knowledge, and you keep building, but you don't develop skill, what happens is that you have this lopsided equation, and this is where we get like the analysis paralysis pundit people who live in the ivory towers. This is my challenge with academics and why I get insulted when somebody says, "Oh, you're so academic." And I'm like, I am not an academic because I am very good at execution. And the tactician executes and develops skill rapidly. But here's the value. If you know a lot, then once you practice whatever the thing is, your practice is way accelerated compared to the person who's got to do everything trial and error. So this was just one of the thoughts that I was having because it's that consume, reflect, produce. And what you want to do is you want to have massive production cycles and then consume and reflect cycles in between those. So it's like, man, I got stuck. Now let me consume, reflect, consume, reflect, consume, reflect, and then produce, practice. Right?
Right. You know.
Yeah. So all of this was based on this idea of what I'm trying to put together for the fond model was that I want to make something that people will actually use. And I was, scrolling through Facebook today and finding out a lot of my, friends and people from back in the day, they got families and kids now. And I was like, oh, cool. Maybe I should hit these guys up and, see what's going on. But here we are. And there you are. Hello.
Hello, I
I
have
see your
made it.
face.
You can see my face now and our water heater.
Yes.
So attractive. You're
You
welcome.
sh you should be nice and warm now.
Oh yeah. I
Hmm.
showered. I've got a sweatshirt. I'm right by the water heater. It's great.
Excellent. Um, so Jim, what's up,
Hey,
man?
Jim.
Hello. I've been dragging all day long at groggy out there, which ties me back into production because I'm just not good at it. I've fallen into the habit of just of obtaining more and more information, which makes me wonder, is that right-sided brain thinking versus left-sided brain thinking, or is it just, the habit of built up of, trying to consume stuff because that's the lowest benchmark of the least activity you have to do out there. So, well, I spend my activity doing the regular habits I'm normally doing, like, running around hunting or doing the exercise or things of that nature out there or driving around with my aunt, then that's where my external energy goes out there. And so all the production energy I tie into that stuff. And then I'm actually just reading and researching on the other side of things. So I may need to fix that. I think of that.
So what it seems like is your strategist is really strong in one area, and
Mm-hmm.
then your tactician is really strong in like hunting, physical work stuff, right? You're very skilled at acquiring knowledge, right? So what is the thing that you actually want to execute on?
I want to increase the knowledge. Well, I want to increase the performance for my work. And so that's going to be like a certain certification. I keep talking about everything that I'm doing some small researches for. But I also want to increase like just, my plant knowledge of all things. And, so I need to read that, but it's like, well, what? what I need to do is write down a plan like, well, how can I execute that into a productive manner? And so it's like, what could I actually grow or what could I actually pull off there? So that is something I need to just, yeah, brainstorm because I know nothing about out there. So I think it's probably, I don't know. I should go like interview someone who actually knows about more of this stuff out there. Hmm.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because when it comes to executing on something, it tends to be um, if we're not doing it. So I had another podcast. I'm going to try not to go on a super tangent here, but I was looking at product engineering because that's what I'm in, and there's this guy who has a book about like jobs to be done, and that's the whole thing that he looks at is like, instead of just saying here's a demographic of people by age, race, gender, whatever, and then sorting your people by that, you sort them by what's the thing that they're trying to actually accomplish.
Hmm.
And so when somebody does something, it's generally because they have a push, a pull, anxiety, and inertia. Those are the four forces that he's saying are preventing someone from changing a behavior. So the push is oh God, I'm gonna probably get these wrong, but like one is like the thing that you're already doing, right? And so you're used to this. So let's call that the pull. Uh Hold on. I'm gonna find my notes because I did actually write this down. Um, but the whole concept is you're trying to overcome um the anxiety and inertia of the anxiety of the new behavior and the inertia of the old behavior. Here it is. Push is any dissatisfaction you have with your current state. Pull is the attractiveness to the new solution. Anxiety is the FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, doubt, and difficulty of the new behavior. And then habits are your inertia from the current behavior. So you have, let's just say, the researcher in you. So the researcher is dissatisfied with your results because you're like, well, I learned more about stuff, but I'm not actually getting any of the results that I want. So I feel real smart, but I don't feel real accomplished, right?
Right.
And then there's the attractiveness of the solution. Oh man, I want this outcome. I want my plant lore. I want the certification. I want to get into this, higher level of job satisfaction, right? But then you've got the FUD. And so the uncertainty of, I don't know enough about this plant stuff, let me go and learn about it. So what you end up doing is saying, okay, cool, let me go and read a book about plant lore. Well, now you've read 5 books about plant lore, but you haven't actually like planted any seeds, right? Because the inertia of the old habit of read and reflect, oh, that was a good book. I was really entertained by this book. I was really, I learned a lot about this book, right? Has created this uncertainty certainty loop, but you're also getting the positive feelings of now having known. I didn't know before, and that was uncomfortable, and now I know more, and so that feels good. And so I'm going to keep eating the brain candy, right? So the irony is learning too much can actually inhibit progress. Yeah.
Hmm.
So the way to overcome this is to switch into your tactician mode and get data points. There was a guy who had a thing, and he said, all confidence issues are really lack of data. So you need about 30 data points to get to about a 65th percentile of, understanding. And then you want 150 data points to get to, like 95% confidence. So the thing is, all you need is sets and reps. And this is what I keep going back to. Oh God, this one's coming out on Wednesday, but, or no, is it? It's It's coming soon, but it's the idea that a lot of the parenting advice is geared towards women. Like almost all of it is, oh, well, here's the baby stuff. And, here's how your body's going to feel. And here's the emotions or whatever. But Aaron, we're going to get into this feminization of America
Mhm.
next.
Get
But
into it.
um, but that's really what it is that I was like, therapy was largely designed, and this is the story that I heard is that Freud's whole deal was he was a Jewish guy and they weren't looked upon favorably. And so his early clients were all female. And he was trying to do the therapy and they're like, just shut up and listen. And so he just shut up and then let him talk. And so what girls mostly wanted was to talk out their issue. And then once they had that conversation out, then they're like, oh, okay, I feel better now. Thanks, doc. And so he creates this concept of non-directive therapy. And so we've been entrenched in that model. However, that's not typically how dudes operate. And so this is one of my lucky seven frameworks, and this is also the basis of the DISC assessment for different management styles and for social styles, which is task versus relationship orientation. And so the idea is women are uh, more relation oriented and men are more task oriented. And so all of these types of articles and therapies are generally women oriented because women are very relational and they want to have this emotional, connection. And they want to understand like what do people think about me? Who's saying what? How does this person feel? Right? Meanwhile, the guys are like, what do you want me to do about it? you know? And the girl's like, oh, he doesn't care. And the guy's like, I do care, but I can literally do nothing about what you have just like the information you've just given me. Right? It's like, well, don't you feel bad? And it's like, maybe you're such a monster. You know what I mean? So like this conversation is constantly happening between partners because they're operating, generally speaking, from two very different modes, the task versus the relationship orientation. So, all of this to say, I wanted to create task oriented stuff for dads to do. And so, this is what my article is coming out. It's like, here's some tools, you know, go build some shit.
Love that.
Yeah. So, in terms of what you're trying to do, basically the answer is twofold. You need to either decide if it's a skill that you want to build or if it is a project you want to complete. And so if it's an ongoing thing that you want to improve performance on, then sets and reps. If it is a one-off project or a project that you're going to repeat, then you need to get your milestones to completion. And so once you have your roadmap, you can just start checking off your task list until your roadmap has been completed. Or if it is a performance thing that you want to improve the skill on, then you need to figure out what are the sets and reps of what activity I need to repeat over and over and over again until I am at my desired level of skill.
Yeah. In essence, like you said, you're finding a way to measure what skill you have out there, then how to repeat it, and then you're also looking at what type of benchmark do you need to use to measure if it's completed or not. Then, yeah,
Yeah.
two different things. Okay.
So do you mind if I do you have an immediate thing that you want to discuss specifically before I launch into some just random?
Well, not exactly, because honestly, it's a simple it's a simple solution. I just need to do it because like I can already kind of like start thinking of a few things like, well, you've been carrying these books around, so you actually should complete them first. But then there also should be a way that you can practice this, in your own household, setting at room temperature. So figure out like which plants would work for that. And then the other one would be a matter of like identify where you're going to find the information online to do your online class that you don't want to pay for yet because you don't have a place to test for it.
Mhm.
And then go from there. So and it's just a matter
So
of study.
the
But
other question, though, about this is how relevant is it to you now and later?
mm,
So what benefit to your, you know, health, wealth, and network is this going to be?
it can enhance things for the future, but it's not necessarily needed immediately right now. I'm doing okay in regards to like how things are going. I can just keep the inertia going on that and just
Mhm.
keep those regular habits in place, and I'm doing all right. However, it's something I would like to do though, just to make sure things are better, or at least I'm more prepared for the future. Yeah.
So what is this thing like? So let's take the herb lore, right? What is herb lore going to do for you in the future? And how do you envision yourself incorporating this into your like daily behaviors?
That would be a better I would possibly make a business out of it. I would know how to get medications on my own terms without having to use a pharmacy out there, which is an idea I'm very attracted to. I'd also be more, not outside, but I'd have some work that would actually keep me more outside and paying attention to the rhythms of, the seasons land, which is more attractive to me than just being inside all the time and
Hmm.
isolated from all that. So yeah, that's why.
Okay, so so
Well, it ties into
you're
like
trying to
it ties into a bigger picture of knowing how to provide medications and healing for yourself, other people out there in a more wilderness setting now.
Okay, so you're trying to basically open up an apothecary. So you're
Hmm.
like a natural pharmacist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so would you be selling your natural medicines like what's the is this more for you so that you don't have to like go and get prescription drugs because you're a nurse and so you know what the side effects are of all the stuff, but is it that I don't want to have these side effects for me, or I want my family to be getting vitamins rather than painkillers? Or
Yes.
is it mostly that I want to sell these as products to people, um, so that they can get the benefits while I'm also enjoying being outside and having my hands in the soil and being a part of nature?
Yes. All of those.
Okay. So that's great. And so what is the so I'm trying what I'm trying to figure out is give me an example of what a day looks like in your life once you have all of the herb lore and you have all of the herb skill. You are a level 12 um, herbal cleric warrior barbarian.
Hmm. Yes. Keeping labels simple, eh?
Yeah.
So in essence, the beauty of it would be that, with a little bit of maintenance in the mornings and the evenings, I'd be able to like keep the garden going and keeping
Hmm.
it, watered, well fed, maintained, and everything. However, throughout the day out there, when after the kid like, gets a bad scratch or they like, get stung by a bee or something like, I don't need Benadryl per se, and I don't need to go to the clinic. I don't need to go to the hospital. I have something simple where it's like, all right, I have these plants right here. I could just grind up a poultice for a minute. I can soak that in the water out there, wrap the wound up. I can, wrap the wound up there, and then let her, feel good, in an hour without
Yeah.
having to go through, conventional means of a hospital.
Yeah. I love that concept. There was Brett Weinstein, he was talking about how they they don't necessarily participate in the healthcare system unless it's like dire.
Hmm.
So,
Good
you know,
advice.
kid broke a bone, and then they just splint the bone, um, set it, made sure that it was fine. Um, and then for the most part, let it let it do its own thing and let it heal. Maybe they go and get an x-ray just to, make sure that it's healing fine, but at the same time, you don't need to go and do a whole bunch of things. So I like the idea of having a more self-sufficient way of managing your health, and I like the way that you're going about this. So yeah, that doing the basic maintenance of your plants so that you can just go to the garden or have your poultices ready when the inevitable thing happens. And being so outdoorsy as you are, there's the expectation that you can basically just carry some your own first aid kit field medicines that you've made, prepared, or like what to look for while you're out hunting.
That's the next step.
That's the next step. Okay. So, um, what it sounds like is your first step is just figuring out what are the most common ailments or injuries that you are likely to encounter, and then put together your base suite of potions and poultices, and then say, okay, I need something that will handle minor scrapes. I need something that will maybe decrease inflammation. And I need something that will handle allergic reactions, right? So, okay, here are three, really common things that, and I'm just spitballing here. So here's three really common things that I would need a medicine for. Let me go and research just enough to make them, right? So
Yep.
now what you have is a three phase project. So what is my Band-Aid, solution for a cut? Aaron and I were watching the Equalizer last night, and he boils some honey, and then he places it on a wound. So he like disinfects the wound, places the honey over it, and then wraps it up. And I was like, oh, that's really clever because it's gonna keep the wound closed, keep it from leaking, but also it's like antibacterial, biodegradable. It's like not gonna cause any lasting damage or impair him in any way,
That was a real
Hmm.
solid move.
right? So what's some kind of thing that you can create, um, with minimal resources, both in terms of financial and in terms of like ingredients, and then build yourself a recipe. And then once you've made that one thing, make it a couple of times, get the formula right. And that might even be a faster way to getting skill and confidence than just going reading 5 books, because in the time you've read your gigantor herb lore book, you now have 30 repetitions of making this poultice, and with all of the nicks and bruises that you do from your like Spartan races and stuff, like in jujitsu, it's like you'll be using that stuff every week.
Hmm.
Lots of test
Exactly.
opportunities.
Yeah.
You got two little bruisers of nephews too, and your sister's a nurse, so maybe you guys can make concoctions together and just try them out on the kids.
Exactly. Test them
Children
out.
are great lab rats.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, but I also am like excited to just talk about this thing because we made a an understanding yesterday um, about society, and so I'm gonna just lean into that. So I've been studying the shift in social phenomenon pretty much, oh God, for the last 10 years now. Because when I moved to San Francisco, I was just so surprised at how these things came out. And we talked about this. I don't know if you listened to the last exercise podcast that was about like Superman. We watched the Superman movie.
Yo.
Um, yo, but
Just that new Superman movie that came out.
yeah, it was not
Yeah, I
Superman. It
have to
was
see it with you.
normal guy, you
I'm
know?
yeah, did not even look appealing. Mom's like, it doesn't look good and it's
It
probably
was
gonna be
not
bad. You're like,
good.
It
We'll
was not
see.
cracking.
Not good.
Oh dear.
But
He did
we
not look very inspiring as a Superman. I was like, hmm,
that's
interesting.
exactly what we said, is that it was not inspiring at all. And so
Give me Henry Cavill.
along with that idea, we were looking at what's been happening societally. And, the term woke has now, I think, mostly run its course. But at the time, it was a strange phenomenon that people couldn't really quantify because the words around it were changing so frequently. But I called it, when it was happening because that's what I do. I study shit. I study like cultural trends and phenomena and look at data and see what's happening, and I ask a question. So the questions that I was asking is, why is it that it's okay for me to be black and have face tattoos in San Francisco but not have a penis? So the the thing was, it's like, okay, what is what's happening? So what I'm hearing a lot is, you know, this political spectrum thing. I'm hearing a lot of let's go to the streets and march. I'm hearing, a lot of support the gender people, support all of the intersectionalities. And I was like, okay, cool. I agree with all of this, but why are they going about it like this? Because it's really ineffectual. So I was listening to a Tom Bilyeu podcast, and he was saying something to the effect of, um, if you try to look at it through the lens of gender or race, specifically, it's not going to make sense. But if you look at it from the perspective of masculine and feminine psychology, then it makes a lot more sense. And that gets back to the task versus relationship orientation thing that we were talking about.
Hmm.
And so what it is I was calling it the pussification of the American male. And now I'm calling it the stupidification, right? We talked about that on the Superman podcast.
Mhm.
But what it is it's the relation versus task orientation. So the sort of short history of this is, we had the civil rights movement as an effort to stop discriminating against people, right? So it was black people with segregation, and then it was women with, rights and voting. And so in the workplace. So the first kind of major shift was government and legality, right? And then it started going more into the corporate world and saying, okay, let's look at HR departments. Well, we've got these boys clubs everywhere. How do we make them, female friendly? And so the sort of consequence of making a female friendly workforce is sort of androgenizing everyone. So we had to take the male aggression, the masculinity down, and we had to take the femininity, up to like, I don't know. We had to feminize the males and masculize the females, right? And so when you have a more androgynous workplace, then you tend to have less conflict. And a reason for that is because now what you don't have is you don't have as much sexual tension, you don't have as much like domineering kind of behavior. So the whole dominant submissive dynamic goes away and the attraction dynamics go away. And that's what makes for a more convivial workplace, right? And so HR departments are implementing processes to, have emotional intelligence and increasing these kinds of more relational things because they had to teach the Neanderthal dudes who were just like, we are all task oriented, if you can't do the job, you're shitty, and then we will what is it? We'll insult you, we'll rib you, and if you can't take it, you're a pussy, get out. So like that was the workforce since forever. And now when you have more women in the room, it's like, oh, well, the etiquette says that we're supposed to be polite towards women, but at the same time, we're in this working environment and we're used to being Neanderthals and thugs. So what do we do now? And so HR has created these, practices to try and get everybody normalized so that the women aren't discriminated against and the guys aren't, frothing and champing at the bit and, chewing each other's throats out. So over time, this expands beyond corporate and into the cultural zeitgeist, and this androgenization ends up actually creating completely different interest groups along male and female lines, masculine and feminine lines, and the outcry is for the sensitive man, right? We see this in a lot of media, and yet the sensitive man is not particularly attractive. I look at this in terms of dichotomies where you have slut shaming. Well, here's the rub: the slut is the identical or the female counterpart of the simp. The guy who is really weak and insecure is not attractive to your typical female, and the girl who is loose with her morals and body is not particularly attractive to the confident, secure male. So they're basically the same thing. Whereas the Homath version, he says that girls, that the immature feminine says, the guy asked, what do you bring to the table? And she says, I am the table, right? And then the masculine side of this, he says, or she says, well, what do you bring to the table? And he's like, I want you to like me for who I am, right? Even if I'm unlikable, right? Even if I'm incompetent, even if I'm, a dirtbag or, a fool. So now what you have is these two sort of immature concepts of masculine and feminine that are being sort of wholesale distributed. The independent woman, I think, was a good segue to the interdependence, which is the ultimate goal. But we all kind of got stuck there. There's a major shift in women having to learn how to deal with power, because I actually had an article about this called the Aura Audit, which looked at men versus women and who has power and who doesn't. And what happened is I used the Kohlberg scale to look at 3 stratifications of morality. And so level 1 says, I do it because, it makes me feel good. Level 2, I do it because authority figure told me to. And level 3 is I do it because it's just. And what he comes to is basically that 80% are at level 1 and 2, and 20% are at level 3. Well, if 80% of the population is immoral, but half of them are men, and those half have power, well, okay, cool. Now 10% men have morals and power, and 40% have no morals and power. Whew. But then now we give women power too. And so women now increase that pie. So we've now doubled the percentage of people with power and virtue, right? That's that 20. So we went from 10% to 20%. But we have also doubled the number of people who are immoral with power. And so that is, I think, what society is still trying to grapple with from a cultural perspective in the West is holy crap, now we have twice as many virtuous people with power. Awesome. But we have twice as many unvirtuous people with power. Not awesome. Super not awesome. And we have now androgenized people, which is moving them apart on a political spectrum because politicians are just marketers the same way companies are marketers. And so what do? You look at what your people are interested in consuming, and then you give them what they demand. And so we show, okay, well, women are demanding, we want more independence. And so we are going to pump independence. And, men are demanding, vigor and sex and money and power. And so we will feed you boys, vigor and sex, money and power. And this all is not awesome because if you ask people what they want, what they demand is Cheetos and Mountain Dew. They're not demanding, lean chicken and broccoli. And so this is one of the things that's well known in like the marketing departments is, you don't sell people vitamins, you sell them painkillers because in general, what people will do is will do a thing that's bad for us until it hurts. And when it hurts, we say, make the pain go away, kiss the boo-boo so that I can continue doing the thing that hurt me in the first place. Yeah.
Awesome.
Not awesome. And so what I'm
That's the
trying
health industry. Yeah.
that's it. That's it. That's why pharmacies like the oh God, somebody got a copyright or patent on the or trademark or copyright on the word cure. So we can't actually say cure anymore. Even if we were to have a cure, because I think a pharmaceutical company owns the word.
That's so dumb.
It's so dumb. And so they don't want to cure anything. They want to continue to alleviate pain points. They don't want to resolve them or prevent them. And so this is what the struggle is for me as the broccoli salesman is how do I teach my kids in this world of chronic painkillers to take vitamins and develop effective habits. And this is what you, sir, are about to run into headlong is a world where your daughter is going to be basically told to ignore you because you are a male and you are an adult, and that she is going to know better and know best because she is born and she is female.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Yep.
So we've had a feminization overcompensation in certain, areas of everything from government to corporate to society. And the overcorrection is not necessarily favoring the most virtuous. It benefits the most virtuous, but it handicaps some of the virtuous males and elevates some of the unvirtuous females.
Right.
Yeah.
Real talk.
An inversion of what is competent. And so the war begins. Yep.
Okay, battle guy. I'm sick of the war of the sexes. Um,
Mhm.
it's not good.
I'm not sure it's a war of sexes, though, at this point. I think it's a war of competence. Because even the women who are effective are told, like, you're not allowed to be an effective woman. You have to be, was it, you can't be a mother, you can't be a home wife, you have to be leading the company, you have to be away from home, and you're not really allowed to have children. So it's like they're breaking down like what a man should be, and he can't be that anymore, and what a woman could be, and she can't be that anymore either. They have to
Mm,
be these you have to have these they're pushing for these like different versions of them, which as you said are more androgynous to begin with. And so it's the woman who can do anyone and screw anyone, and the guy who's overly sensitive and can't act, doesn't have a backbone or spine to him. It's like,
yeah.
okay.
So this is something that Aaron and I were talking about last night. I think this is a yin and yang thing. Is that because we just finished the Lord of the Rings trilogy with the boys, and we
I,
were just loving Aragorn all over again,
yep.
and Samwise Gamgee because he's the Hobbit version of Aragorn, not
Hmm.
Frodo. Frodo's just like
Real brave.
right,
Yeah.
Samwise the Brave.
Right.
And so here's this guy who is protecting his friend no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Um, and here's Aragorn who is learning how to be a good king from Theoden. Theoden is mentoring him. First, Gandalf is mentoring him. Theoden's mentoring him. He's realizing, oh man, I got to start taking some responsibility. Boromir, for all of Boromir's failings, Aragorn learns from him that, you know, I really do need to care for my people because look how hard this guy fought. He's willing to, adopt the darkest evil specifically because he wants to save his people so bad.
Hmm.
And that's what really lights the fire in him is Boromir. So, we
No.
finished watching Return of the
Yes.
King, right?
Boromir is the unsung hero in that whole saga. When you actually break it down, it's like, wait a minute, Boromir is actually really good. Like, oh damn.
Yeah, he has his moment of weakness because the ring is capitalizing on his desire to protect, preserve his people. You
Hmm.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
see, like that's how the ring corrupts everything around it. Whoever's touching it, it'll find your virtues or your weakest spot out there, and then it'll, twist it against you. It's like,
yeah,
okay, gotcha.
Both
yeah,
those brothers, Boromir and Faramir, were excellent, honorable men.
yeah, yeah. What happened to their dad though? He sucked.
Hmm. High
Denethor the
expectations.
Bonkers. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the sort of concept that I'm trying to figure out. How do we inject this back into a culture? I say back into a culture, and maybe it wasn't there, but how do we create it? How do we create it into the culture? And I don't think that it happens from some top-down, you know, big picture movement. It could, but I think really the trust in institutions is so low that it has to come from small groups, from communities and families.
Yep.
And those families, if for no other, thing, they'll just outlast everybody because their virtues are so strong and profound. So I want to, teach my boys to do the hard thing and not eat the candy, even when they know it tastes good now, because they're going to pay for it later. And so rather than, saving up for something, build the habit of saving. And so with Aaron and I, we were talking about the yin yang, and I am like super masculine, super task oriented. I love to work out. I love to fight. I'm very hot blooded and I'm very bullet pointy. We were watching The Equalizer, and it's like I'm the equalizer. I just don't kill people because like I'm always tracking things. I'm very exacting. I'm constantly improving. I measure freaking everything. But then at the same time, I'm very relation oriented. I'm quite an empath. I feel what people feel. Um, you know, I struggle in corporate America because I'm such a big feeler and because so few people in my work environment are. But then Erin is super feminine, but she's a very mature feminine. She's my Arwen because she is willing to sacrifice her own, joy and pleasure of, the eternal life or whatever, so she can ensure that the race of man continues to live on, and so here she is having, experienced tremendous hardship and suffering, to preserve her boys, and that mature feminine is so attractive to me. At the same time, her task orientation allows her to, you know, say, I really don't want to learn this computer shit, but I'm going to. And, I know how to manage a hotel. I can manage a household, and be able to, to run and operate and and shift into that mode for shortwave communication when we got to get something done. So the yin and yang at play is that, overlapping bell curves is that I am in the high percentage of masculine and she's in the highest percentage of feminine. But at the same time, we both have a strong or average or above masculine and feminine quality to complement. I'm not the girl in the relationship, right? I'm not the Homer Simpson. I'm not the like, the deadbeat and the wife just runs the house. I'm the captain of the ship, but at the same time, Erin's the best frickin' first mate. And she's the heart. She's the crew. She like makes sure that, if I say something hard, not that she goes back on what I said, but that she helps the boys come to terms with it. And I think of Leonidas and Gorgo, you know, and he says, what's the line? First you fight with your head and then you fight with your heart or something like that. And I was just like, that's right. You gotta have both.
Mhm.
So I'm very, very like honored to have a partner who has such a good balance, but such a strong and mature femininity that is not it's not weak. It's not a weak energy. The feminine and the masculine, there it's not about weak or strong. It's are you are you strong in your energy set? And she's so
Respective domain.
relationally strong, you know? And so I'm really task strong, and that creates an attraction, right? The polarity creates the attraction,
Hmm.
but the friction is reduced because we have enough of the other in that yin and yang quality that it binds us.
That was beautiful.
It's It's interesting, honestly, because that's the ideal setup in a relationship status, But in my personally, I've never had that because I've always had to do both myself, and that's one reason why, like, I understand, like, relationship talk, with like girls and women, because I've actually had to study it for myself, and so I remember like a few of my ex-girlfriends have said like, "Oh, it's weird that you understand this," it's like most guys don't know that. I'm like, "Why, thank you, I'm an idiot," but. it's honestly just from observation, but it's also be having the talent to actually look at that. But it's also the other aspect where it's like my yin and yang, I've had to play both sides out there, and I still do technically. I've had very, 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 very few people who've actually tried to help me in life or who are able to stand in that role. And you got, some people are trying, like, mom and other aspects out there, but mom has her own problems that will like drag her back or down. And if you're not careful, that dead weight will sink your entire ship as well, or the dinghy in my
Hmm.
case. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a clipper ship yet, but anyway. So, I've had to, you know, train myself in order to do that. And therefore, it's like whenever I find I've been looking for someone who could take on those tasks, but I'm so used to doing it myself that it's easy. My inclination for giving, usually wants me like, let me give everything, every skill set I have. And so some people, I think after once they realize that, they're like, okay, I don't need to do anything for him. So therefore, I'll just back out of here because I want to take it all and I don't want to give any work out there for him. And if I actually ask for any, prices, you say, if I ask for anything back, then it just turns into like, why would he ask anything of me when he can do it himself? Therefore, he must just be greedy, or something like that. I'm
Mm.
not sure what the whole, mind process is, but
I
yeah.
think, I think you're stuck in the independence trap
Mhm.
and not in the interdependent stage.
Yeah. I
And
can't find someone to be interdependent with, you know.
you can be interdependent, period, regardless of who you're with.
Oh, so it's a trust thing then.
Is it?
Yeah. You have to trust the person you're being interdependent with to do their job. If you're independent, you can trust yourself to do your work. If you're interdependent, you have to trust that they're doing their side of the bargain out there, which I have not met many people I do trust. Most I
Okay.
don't, actually.
So what can you trust them to do? So maybe you're thinking that trust is I have to trust you to be everything instead of I can trust you to do this one task.
Hmm.
I can trust that you will um like call me once a week. You know, I can trust that um you will do your own laundry and you'll shower and you won't show up stinking at my house, right? That's not the truth for everybody, but you can trust someone to do that. I
Right.
wonder if you aren't putting an expectation on somebody else about what you're trusting them to do or not do that they didn't sign up for, or that they don't know that you want, or that's too big of a task for them. And so I go to the leadership equation, which
Hmm.
is vision times the quantity management plus mentorship. I think you have a great vision. I think you could use some development in the management and mentorship.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, because
Everybody's constantly learning.
yeah,
Ethan and I have a really, really strong relationship, and I'm really, really grateful for all the work that we both did separately and the work that we have been able to do together, but we're both still learning and evolving. And it's got to be a thing that continues on. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
yeah. And I think the mentorship component for you, Jim, is really the ticket. Um, because not very many people have done so much internal work as you. And you had a friend of yours say that too. Um, but you're so evolved in, knowing yourself and in your, capacity for virtue and competence that you're right. It's going to be hard for you to find somebody that's at your level already. So it basically just means that you're going to have to teach somebody. And if you find somebody who's willing to learn, right, who's willing to grow with you, and you're willing to be patient with them, right, that's the thing. Then you might you might not just have someone who already comes equipped with everything that you are looking for. That person might have to grow into it. And you can be the support that helps them grow into it. They might just be waiting for somebody. This is something I've heard from a lot of women actually,
Mm.
is that they like a man who will teach them something.
Hmm.
Aaron?
Agree. Totally.
Yeah. Because if she knows everything that you know, what are you here for? Like if she can't look up to you, then is she looking down on you?
Oh,
Hmm.
I learn
Yeah.
from you all the time. You know?
But here's the question. I I'm also kind of a know-it-all, and don't don't think that I think that itself is a turnoff. So where is the line? And I struggle with this. This is what I'm working on, is how to not just um, profess at people and let them, you know, guide their own learning to where they want to be instead of where I think they should be. Because again, I monitor everything. And so I'm going to see something that I see as wrong or I see as deficient. And then I might put too much weight on the bar for them to lift. And Jim, I think that you and I are so similar that that's one of the things that you're like, you can't lift this, it's baby weight. But you got to remember, you've been lifting for 25 years, homie. Yeah.
Through that. Yeah. And with that, I think I need to get off here because I have a meeting here in a little bit. So I'm going to race
All
off.
right. Cool. Well, I think that's about the time too. So, um, thanks for showing up. Listen to me ramble.
So good to see you, Jim.
You guys as well. Looking forward to seeing you again in the future. So we'll get stuff
Yes.
sorted
Oh,
out.
and we are going to be showing up at your baby shower.
Yes.
Good.
Just so you can stop texting Aaron the question, we will be there.
Just confirming.
I texted you. I texted you back. Yes, we will
Oh,
be
I
there
saw.
for sure. And
Yeah.
I got an official invitation from your mom in the mail today. So
Good.
hooray.
Things are
Right
as it
on.
should be.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Can't wait to
Yeah.
celebrate you.
Oh, and before I forget, I should share this with you too. Isla, her name means halo around the moon when you look up the etiology of it all. So
Oh,
it's
is
like,
that what you
Oh yeah.
decided on?
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Isla, that's beautiful. Are you going to spell it Isla?
Ayla.
AY.
Ayla. Isla. Have you chosen a middle name that you're willing to share?
She's she wants to use my name, and so far we're just gonna keep on that because it actually sounds good when you sound it out. And she likes, like the male names with like, the for the girls and stuff. So that's like her
So
own
like
daughter's like
Isla
Lacey. So I'm
James?
like, okay, interesting. So yeah, it's gonna be like Isla James Culp, basically. I'm like, all right,
Wow.
that's not bad.
Well, that's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely.
Mhm. Yeah, yep. Well
Yay.
then, I'll get off here for now and stuff, but lovely seeing both of you, and yeah, good catching up as well.
All
All
right,
right, Jim.
Jim.
Take it easy.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Deuces.